Hi, this is Dawn. Welcome. Today I want to talk a little bit about presence, possibility, probability, and human potentiality. So I often have received the question, how have I been able to create, various things in my life? It's such a blessing to be the recipient of such a question because for many years I felt I couldn't create anything. I am a creator, but in terms of my life and manifesting the desires that I had for my life, it just wasn't falling into place. And it was a mystery to me, a complete mystery. And what I have come to with this question, it's interesting when people ask me, I honestly, it used to puzzle me because I would think, it was actually the uncreating. It was actually the not creating that allowed it. And now I am all in favor. Everybody that knows me knows I'm in favor of creativity and creative expression, and that's a very important part of my life. But the truth of it is that it is presence that has brought me to all the fruition of all of that I have so desired in my life in the moment. And it is my willingness to simply be here now, to be present to what is and appreciate that has led me to the next thing and allowed me, honestly, to just see the opportunity or to recognize the gift when it shows up. I am convinced at this point in my life that things actually did show up for me. I just couldn't see them because I was not present in the moment. And so that's where I want to begin, this idea of presence. And what can we do to cultivate presence in our day-to-day lives and to live in a way that allows us to be present to what is, because it's all here for us right now. It is all here. And what usually happens is that we have such a fixed idea of what we think we want and how we want that package delivered, and we have such a narrow band of expectation that we are focused on that, and even more so, we are linking those desires of our heart and soul to, well, sometimes actually we have false desires. There are many layers, but we are linking those desires to a past experience or a predicted future outcome that we have created in our minds. And both those things conflict with the opportunity of what is now. So, and now, by the way, just let me throw this out there. Now is an acronym I like to use for your next opportunity window. It doesn't come by you going after it and going to get it. It comes when you're present in the moment. I talk a little bit more about this in All Systems Go, my book All Systems Go, so you can take a look at that. In the introduction to that, I think I talk a little bit more about that concept. So presence is the key to it all. And I've really come to believe that it's about being present. And so how can we be present? Well, if you think about the word presence or present, the present, if you break it down, it's present. And that helps me to really integrate this concept more deeply for myself. We so quickly, again, think that we know what it is we want, and so we wrap that little thought, and it usually is a thought, or that we call it a desire, but we wrap that up into a little package and we send it out. And typically, many of us are, have been trained by society, and some of us by, personality traits and style, are action takers. And so we're all about getting that message out there. And, it's interesting, even a lot of the current current offerings and talk in terms of how to manifest your desires, all begin with this idea of visualization and then sending it out there. And there is definitely something to visualization, but in my understanding and where I've come to is that it begins with presence. And it begins pre-sent, before, when you are present, before you have put it all out there, you have to be present fully. And so that presence is a practice. There was a saint, I believe, I'm suddenly blanking on the name, but very meaningful story to me and very important for a portion of my life, and I believe really prepared me to be present. There's a saint who wrote about practicing the presence of God and being taking this idea of being present and making it a practice, a daily practice. And that really is what will open us up, I believe, to a much better world than what we're living in. I've seen this in my own life on a small scale, and I truly believe it is possible on a grand scale. And that's what I mean by human potentiality. So it comes down to being present moment by moment, really bringing our whole selves and our soul selves into every moment, every day. And the presence that we bring to any given situation, and particularly when we are able to do so from a heart-centered perspective, that brings us fully into the awareness of what is, and we see more and more and more possibility. It's very interesting to look back in my life and notice times where I literally, everything felt very one-dimensional and flat. It felt like my world was being literally sliced apart. And it felt like there was zero possibility, that I was locked in. And at the time, I felt very much as if I didn't receive what I thought was required, which was, in my case, a forgiveness and or a pardon for some perceived wrong that I had done to someone, or perhaps something that I had unknowingly said or done. I believed if I didn't receive that, nothing was possible. So it started right with a false belief. And then from there, my life, like I said, literally felt sliced up, as if there was only this very small, very, very small, constricted space in which anything could happen. So right from the start, again, I had already sent out what I believed was the necessary requirement to receiving, and so there was a block to my receptivity, and I therefore could not see. I could not have a whole new way of seeing, or a whole way of seeing at all, because I was not coming from a place of integration and wholeness in terms of the way I was seeing what is. I was also relying much more at the time on my mental and understanding and on society's, kind of, let's see, it has something to do with shame here too. It was as if I felt I didn't have the right to be present, because I felt that I had been labeled, stamped, branded, and sent off. And so, again, present. I keep coming back to that. I'm not sure I'm articulating this well, but I hope you guys are getting kind of what I'm saying. So, presence. So I wasn't even aware of the possibilities. Had they been handed to me on a silver platter, I would not have seen them. And this went on in my life for a good 10 or 15 years, sadly. because I didn't see it. I didn't understand. I was working so hard to create opportunity and possibility, to do everything right, to put myself in, to redeem whatever, was flawed about me. Again, I was seeing that that I was gravely flawed, and I didn't understand that, and it really, my mind's incapacity to process what had happened in my life, the circumstances, led me to draw conclusions that were inaccurate and to operate from that reality. And that's another word there, reality. So get real. No, I don't think so. I don't think that's the way to, I don't think that is the way to your next opportunity window. I think the way to what all that wants to come to you in this life, all of the blessings, is now, and its presence. It's not coming from what you believe will happen when you do this. Rather, it is waiting to emerge, and I believe that those opportunities and possibilities can emerge when we create an inner space and are connected from within. That is the only place that radiant expansion can come from. And without that initial set and without that initial condition, we are cutting ourselves off from all of the possibilities that are there. There are, in every minute, infinite possibilities. It's just that we have blocked ourselves from seeing them, and we sometimes have a deep-seated belief that we don't deserve them or are not worthy to receive them, or we don't know how to let go and allow ourselves to step into them. And then the last piece of that is that we deep down don't believe we're free. Deep down, we're still holding on to this idea that we got to wait for some permission. We got to wait for a sign that it's okay for us to have those things. And I'm here to tell you, you don't have to wait. And, God and the universe and spirit and this beautiful world want you to have those things right now, to be present to them, because they are here for you. All of those possibilities for your life are here for you right now, today. So just consider that today, this idea of presence and the infinite possibilities that do exist in every moment. And from there, from that presence and from the infinite possibilities that are here in every moment, we are led forward into a kind of life where the probability is that we will indeed receive the desires of our heart, that we will indeed step into something beautiful, something wonderful, and that word wonderful, that we will experience the wonder and the mystery of who we are first. And as we do that, there will be more and more and more wonder revealed to us. And that, to me, is where the real beauty of life is. And the probability that that will happen increases exponentially when we bring our full presence to the whole of who we are and love it all. Love it all. If you feel that you have done some grave wrong like I did, then love that. Just love it and love yourself in it. If you're angry as hell at the way your life has turned out, love that. Don't feed it, but accept that, bring it into you and love it, and then release it lovingly you'll know when it's time to release it. If you are really sad about things that have happened in the past, or at what you perceive to be the limitations of your present, or what you are believing to be the predictability of your future. If you're sad about that, then be present to that sadness in this moment. In this moment. Don't cultivate it in your life. Don't just allow it to be don't allow it to lead you. All of these emotions and thoughts for that matter too. And so again, come back to the present. Take time to put your hand on your heart and to really feel what you're feeling, to be present to what is within you. That's the first place. Put your hand on your heart and be present to what your heart feels. And put your hand on your solar plexus area and your gut, and put your hand there and feel what it is you know. Because I came to a point where it was apparent to me that, wait a second, wait a second. Like, and literally, this did take me 7 or 8 years. I'm a little slow learner at this life thing, but I came to a moment where there was a realization that, something is not matching here. All of these things that I have believed in my mind, for me, it was often my mind just running amok and leading me into this sort of very narrow, fixed circumference of my life, which automatically limited, many of the opportunities and possibilities that were there, that wanted to come to me. And then even worse, getting smaller and smaller and really playing a game of reduction. And when I came to a moment, though, where I realized, wait a second, my body and my intuition is not in agreement with that thought. Why am I not giving what my body knows, my human body, and that's been a challenge for me. I'll talk about that in a different recording, but why am I not giving that at least equal airspace, if you will, to all of these thoughts that are rumbling around that, by the way, have been formed out of a perceived need to protect myself from the assault of things that I had perceived to be directed at me, or that were self-created self-limitations that I either came into this life with or learned. Many of them, I believe, are learned in our families, in religious circles, in society. And it doesn't have to mean that those individuals or society itself is evil. And that's where I have another beef about that one, because I feel like a lot of people, just decide to label that and, push away anything that's ego or society and I don't think that's any kind of solution. That is cutting off your own soul in a sense, because it is treating yourself as separate, which is the problem in the first place, is that we have separated ourselves from self. And that initial condition of essentially shutting down our intuitive knowing, or pushing away our soul's truth and radiance, our star power, that dimming our light, that initial condition, and then the creation of various layers of separation are the whole thing that blocks us from presence and from seeing these vast possibilities that exist now for anyone, wherever you are, whatever your circumstances are, whatever class of society you put yourself in, whether you're male or female, whatever country in the world you live in, whatever your family circumstances, whatever your differences or distinctions, it's all possible. And it all begins in one moment with your presence. Your presence to you is where it begins. Not, your hard work to create these wonderful things, and not even your let's repeat 1,000 mantras and bring it to me by repeating these words. I do believe in magic, by the way. I do believe in affirmation in terms of a tool, and I absolutely believe in visualization. That's something that I'm very excited about, and I've seen it work in my own life. But none of that is worth anything without presence. So the probabilities increase for us. If you want to look at life like a game, I think that's fine. It's a little more serious to me. However, it is true that if you approach that life in a certain way, in this open manner that allows you to be fully present and to see the opportunity that's right there, and then to step into it with grace, not to seize it, but to step into it with grace, that everything is possible. Anything can happen. So that's what this Soul Streaming with Dawn has been all about. It is really being present to what is and allowing that to lead you forward. So today, I would invite you to simply be present to what is unfolding, not rush to push it away, not rush to create something different, not rush to label it and judge it and to define it as a fixed thing that will never change. Not to create these ruts in our brains and this, same predictable way of doing things. It's another thing. Shake it up a little bit. If you are someone like I was for many years and you felt certain you knew how this was supposed to be done, you had mastered the rule book, and you were playing all by the rules, and you were listening to your heart, but you were playing by the rules, and shit happened anyway. and then what, right? And so it can be very easy to get so discouraged, to literally put aside our courage, to literally hold at bay our heart. And for some of us, in my case, to actually intentionally shut down our soul's truth, to if not shut it down fully, to push it down and push it down and push it down. And then it becomes like a thorn that will push through and come up, and things will happen. So watch what you're telling yourself, the story you're telling yourself, the interpretations that you're having about the present. Just look for the good that is here right now. Look for the miracle that you are. Look for the love that you are, and begin there and watch what happens. So all of this, when we do this on an individual level, leads to a collective state of freedom, freeing ourselves from all of these constraints that we have placed upon ourselves through all of these various societal systems that, are, most of them, all of them, I guess, are human inventions. That somebody thought it was a good idea to do it this way, and so here's how we're going to do it. And they are fixed models, and they do often serve a purpose, and some of them are beautiful and lead us to a collective understanding. But the truth is, when we begin with presence to ourselves individually and to recognizing the sovereignty that we have been granted because of our very being, because we are light and life and love, because we are here to be a representation of the divine, because in this human form that we have taken, there is purpose in being in that human form, in being present to it, whatever that is, whatever this human body looks like, whatever perceived limitations there are with it, physical disability, mental capacity that is in some cases diminished, other sorts of conditions that are human in nature, and that can, again, be something that we push away or try to fix or try to, well, I'm not saying that we shouldn't try to improve ourselves, but, we immediately rush to hide it, bury it, push it away, fix it, change it. And what I'm suggesting is that if we begin with love in the present for what is, that's where the magic happens. That's where the miracle can come to the miracle you are and be magnified and made manifest and multiply in your life. And that, when each of us does that individually, is what leads to this collective human potentiality. It raises the entire, it raises humanity to a new level. And those systems begin to fall away, as we are seeing now, because more of us are living in this manner. And that can be scary in and of itself. And that can be, this is why I wanted to just touch on this, it can trigger us. It can be like warning bells going off inside of us in our minds, for sure, because of we've been conditioned. Wait, this is the way it is, and we start to panic. And that can be a place where there's a disconnect from the present. And we go into this mode of past stories and getting attached to how things have been and how we think they should be, and what, your mama told you or the church told you, or, the grand old flag told you, or whatever it is, right? We go into that, attachment to that, and we go into the way we have always seen our future is unfolding. In our nation, in our city, our county, our community, in this world. Each of us has had sort of an understanding of that, again, an understanding that's in our mind. We are standing under a belief that it will look like this. And when we can just gently set that aside, understand that it's there, but gently set it aside, do the work and be present to all that is in our own sphere, right, of being, in our own body, in our own heart, in our own mind, in our own spirit. When we are fully present to that, and we choose to bring our love and presence to those things and to walk on, that is where we begin to shift everything around us, because we have changed. The community around us changes, and also our perceptions change, and we're led into this whole new way of seeing what's around us and who we are, and in reverse order. So we first see the wholeness of who we are, and then we begin to notice the good, and perhaps we notice some areas that are not a match for what our new reality is in our desires. And so we see that, and instead of reacting to it or immediately pushing it away or immediately going to work and trying to change it quickly, we bring our presence to that. And again, it just, in a bigger and bigger playing field, the same process unfolds when we bring our presence to the community and love. I'm not saying by love, I don't mean just say, oh, it's all okay, but bring compassion, be passionate with, and bring loving kindness to our neighbor, to a community, to the divisions that we see, and to the conversations that are difficult. When we bring our full presence to that, coming from a place of integrity and wholeness, and integration of the whole of who we are, when more and more of us do that by nature, it will change and evolve. And just your very presence to that will open up a pathway for you to step into a whole new way of being you in the community, which again affects change. And then ultimately, there's a level of freedom that is born from that, because we together, collectively, come together and create our future. And the way we create our future is by working toward and understanding what it means, how understanding radiant expansion, essentially. And actually, I'm thinking, let me just throw this out there. I have these 24 solar systems I write about in All Systems Go, and one of them is the future map, which is really tied to this collective idea and in creating our future, but not just individually, our future as we are in community and in the world. And my future for me is an acronym for finding unity through understanding radiant expansion. And I truly believe that as we really get this idea of radiant expansion, and it's always from within our soul, self, and our whole self, from within the community, from within, whatever system that we are hoping will grow and expand as a natural system. When we understand that that's what creating our future really is, it begins with just being present in that still center point and allowing the radiant expansion to occur, being present to it and loving it as it is, nurturing it. Think of that little seed. That's how we create our future, individually and collectively. That's the way forward, and that is the promise of human potentiality. Humanity is not a done deal. It's not a sinking ship. It's not. A lot of things seem to be gone amok and awry, and they are in chaos at the moment. But we have a part to play, and before we can show up and be present to the opportunity, and therefore fully bring forward what we're here to bring forward, that particular play of light, that essential story of life, and that revolution of love you are. Before we can do any of that, we've got to be present. We've got to be present to what we've been given and to this sacred life, this absolutely blessed and beautiful life that we have, regardless of what has happened, regardless of how many people have shut you out, regardless of if you're sitting in a tiny jail cell, locked up, and seemingly separate from all of that life and from other people, which, by the way, I have lots of thoughts on why that's really not such a good solution, because it creates more of the initial problem, and it shuts people off from the opportunity to be present to life through nature and through really being able to hear their own hearts and souls. Although it is possible. Okay, I'm going on a tangent there, so I'll stop, and I know I'm getting a little bit, I'm sorry, this is how I do this, so if you're listening, hopefully you're used to that. I ramble a bit. I talk through things. This helps me. It's being part of my own journey, and it's part of my own presence. It is me practicing presence. And back to that initial quote, practicing the presence of God, I'm suddenly thinking it's Brother Lawrence, but don't quote me on that. Google that. I'll do it too when we get off here. Practicing the presence of God. So practicing presence as you walk through each moment of your day, as you're at work and something comes up, just be present. Be present to what is, as much as possibly present, obviously, to the task at hand, but be present to you and your emotions and your thoughts and your spiritual, your spirit, if it's crying out for attention, if it's crying out for nourishment, if it's crying out for God, be present to that and be with that, be one with that. And if you're finding joy in something that somebody else thinks is nonsense and silly, be present to it for you. Because this day is a gift. This day is a present. It is a treasure. And we have been handed this moment, this day, on a silver platter. And it usually doesn't look like we want it to look, does it? Not everything. And you know what? We immediately are trained to fix our attention on the shortcomings and what's not here. I am standing here looking at a gorgeous sunrise in a still water lake, and a group of geese and some ducks and beautiful trees and a hawk. My hawk is here. Oh, I hadn't seen my hawk. Beautiful. And there was a time in my life, though, and this breaks my heart still, there was a time in my life when I couldn't see any of it. If I had been standing in precisely this exact place, here's what I would have seen. There's a piece of debris on the yard over there. Somebody needs to clean that up. That bird feeder right there is crooked. I don't know why it got crooked again, but there must have been a storm last night. Oh yeah, I heard that. I wonder if my chair out there was tumbled by the wind. I remember one time when I was a kid and there was that storm. Oh my gosh, I better just be sure and take care of the house because, it would go on and on and on. And suddenly, very quickly, I was no longer in the present. I was no longer present to what is, because I was already sending all these packages out and I was already making a list in my head of what needed to be changed, what I was judging, what was in the present. Now, this is not to say you should, just ignore these things that are opportunities for us to make improvements, and that can lead us into more opportunities, into a happier life. But there is value in simply being here now, and oh gosh, this is a concept, you guys, that took me a long time because I had a hard time. I don't know if this will resonate with some of you listening, but I'm going to share it anyway. I had a hard time just being here now in this world. It felt as if the timing was off. It felt as if something was wrong. It felt as if I would never be able to do what it was, or to do what it was I felt I was here to do, or to be who it was that I felt I was here to be, because something was off. So I started out with that that wound, and so for me, even being in this world, or being in my childhood, and maybe the family I was in, I loved my family, and again, I couldn't see the opportunity and the love that was there for me in various circumstances throughout my life, because I really was not living one day at a time. I was not enjoying one moment at a time. Both of those come from the Serenity Prayer. And I didn't trust life, and I was often afraid that I wasn't going to make it. So all of those internal conditions were setting me up for a kind of life where, it sort of felt hopeless from the start. And again, what helped me to shift that was being present to those things and seeing, gosh, Dawn, your heart is really hurting here. Or, you know what, Dawn, I see how, just having compassion for the self and bringing love and attention and awareness to that, and not letting those, not allowing those voices to be the only ones that you listen to. So kind of being like a firm parent, right? Bringing your love and attention and grace to that without allowing that to be the driver of your life. See that the little child, the within, was in the driver's seat for a long time, and I didn't even know it. And I had subjugated or pushed down my soul self. In my case, I intentionally pushed it down because the pain was so great. I just thought I wouldn't survive this world. And I'm here to tell you, you're going to survive. Not only are you going to survive, you're going to thrive. And this key to our human condition and to raising that and elevating that is, of course, to come together and to work together. And that can only happen when we are present to what is, and when we bring the fullness of this moment and our full inner knowing and reason. We're not going to, just throw reason out with throw the baby out with the bathwater. We're going to take it all. We're going to take all of the human capacity we've been given, but we're going to come to a place of stillness and presence and looking in the mirror and seeing that this fact that we are spirit in human form is a miracle, and your unique expression of that is a miracle. You are the miracle, and it's time for you to be present to that as much as you are present to all the other conditions in life, and to see all of what is unfolding right now in this moment. So go find the miracle, and that is a little bit of soul streaming on possibilities, probabilities, and human potentiality, all beginning with your presence. Take care.